So one of the things we know about how children are able to learn words so quickly after a certain point has to do with their ability to leverage related words, right? So Borowski and colleagues in 2015 note this, that children leverage their early world knowledge to help them unlock their language skills. In particular, knowing a few related words, which you may have gained by figuring out things, how they relate in the world, you have a few related words. This will help you recognize links to new word meanings, and this can be very helpful for figuring out new word meanings. So this idea we're going to explore in a little bit more detail when we think about the causes of the vocabulary spurt. And so Samuelson and McMurray broke it down this way, is actually this vocabulary spurt is the necessary consequence of two basic facts about word learning. One is that children learn multiple words at once, right? So they're not just focusing on one word and they only move on to the next one once they have that first word perfectly. No, that is not how we as humans seem to learn things. We're learning stuff all the time. We're building up representations about multiple things constantly, and learning words is no different. And the other important thing is that the words vary in difficulty, and it turns out based on their survey of data, with most words sort of being moderately difficult on a number of different indices, but you're learning multiple things at once and words vary in difficulty. And that's going to lead to a vocabulary spurt. The combination of these two things in their simulations always produces an accelerated learning curve, like we see here, this very sudden bloop, big slope happening right there, or between, in this case, 19.5 to 20, you get a jump, and then 19.5 over here, actually 19.75 to 20, maybe you're getting a real jump, and then 20 to like 20.5, it's like, whoo, you are picking up a lot of words, right? That is a consequence of these two simple facts of learning multiple things at once and things varying in difficulty. And another recent study said that one reason that children can learn multiple words at once is something that we've talked about earlier in this course, is syntactic bootstrapping. The fact that the linguistic structure is helping kids zero in on word meaning and generalize across utterances, right? So that's why you can learn multiple words at once, or at least one reason why. It's what specifically is related about the words. It's the words that you're used in combination with can help you figure out word meaning, can help you generalize to new words. And one reason words can vary in difficulty, the other key fact for the vocabulary spurt, is that the syntactic structures associated with their linguistic context are learned at different ages, right? So it's the syntactic structures which make this bootstrapping possible, but these vary in difficulty, right? The structures themselves are learned at different ages, so therefore the words that need those structures to be learned are harder in that sense. So another thing to consider with respect to the causes of the vocabulary spurt is a study by Frank and colleagues in 2016, which really reminds us that a little kid processing powers are not the same as adult processing powers. In fact, these develop over time, and difficulties using knowledge or representations that you nevertheless possess is what happens when your processing abilities can't quite keep up with all the knowledge that you have, right? Like you know it, but you can't quite use it in real time. And so here are a couple of other quotes. So any cognitive operation that requires multiple steps, each of which requires some time to complete and has some probability of failure if you have limited processing abilities. So when we think about this with respect to word learning, even the simplest word learning input for object reference actually is kind of complicated. It involves lots of steps, involves following some kind of attentional cue, like gaze or a pointing or handling the object, to some kind of distal target, something that's far away, and then processing some kind of link between a word and that target referent, right? So these different steps, even this part, means that there's a place for your processing abilities to kind of let you down. And this is another reason that different words might have different levels of difficulty associated with them, which again is the second key step for suddenly seeing this vocabulary spurt. So what we know about processing abilities is that these abilities develop dramatically over the first 2 years and beyond. And so this is intimately tied to children's vocabulary spurt. In particular, one idea is that this is what makes different words harder, is maybe different words have more steps that are involved to figure out their meaning, and if your processing abilities are limited, that's going to make those words of differing difficulty.